Good morning, everybody. Orange J here with another Final Fantasy VII Ever Crisis video. And if you're like me, and you watched the Ever Crisis trailer, and you were like, oh my god, I am so freaking ready for this game. But what is this game? Like, what exactly is Final Fantasy VII Ever Crisis? That is a question that I left the trailer with. I knew I was excited. I knew I saw Cloud and the gang on the map. There was Zack, and there's Aerith, and they're beating stuff up, and it's a mix of the old game and the new game, and I was like, I know I like it, but what the hell is it? Okay, we're going to answer that question as best we can in this video, based on everything we know about the game. I went, did some research, found out everything that's basically out there. I'm going to combine that research with my experience playing other Final Fantasy mobile games, and I'm going to tell you what my conclusions were. So let's get started. First thing I want to do is give a shout out to Audrey on Twitter. Audrey is a big time Final Fantasy translator from JP stuff to English. I'm going to link that in the description, and I'm using an article that she translated from a Famitsu interview with the developers of the game. That is going to inform a lot of the things I'm going to talk about here, and let's put that on the screen and start by talking about the story in Final Fantasy VII Ever Crisis. Now what you see highlighted here are two questions that were answered in this article. The first one says, let's talk about FF7 Ever Crisis. In our previous interview, you mentioned that the game will be released in chapters. Will the chapters be free and include the story too? Also, what exactly is in-game transaction part? These are huge questions. Now, they answer by saying each chapter will be free to play. Awesome. That means if you don't want to spend $1 on this game, you'll be able to be a free-to-play player and play through the story. You might have to do some grinding. There's going to probably be some grinding in this game. But if you just want to experience the Final Fantasy VII plus all the other stuff story, you're going to be able to do that for free, it looks like, and that's phenomenal. Now it goes on to say, in regards to the in-game transactions, it refers to a weapon gacha. You'll be able to get special weapons or new costumes that do not exist in the original game, and this will add to the experience. So to me, that means two things. One, there's going to be cosmetic additions to the game. Like maybe Cloud will be able to get the Mass Immune, and he'll be able to rock that sword. I know that's something I always wanted to do in the original Final Fantasy VII. These new weapons and armors, because I bet you there's both, will probably also have bonus stats that will reduce your grind in the game. Something that I can tell you from playing other gacha games is that the biggest difference between somebody who spends money in these games and somebody who's free to play in these games is the speed in which they can level up characters and clear the content. Obviously, your Cloud with a just better weapon is going to be better than Cloud with a regular weapon. He's going to be able to kill stuff easier, with better armor on, with better materia. Whatever comes in the gacha will speed up your experience and let you clear the content faster. For some people, that's going to be a really good thing. Some people won't want to do that. That's fine. Now, the next question on the screen that you're seeing is important for further explaining this. They say, what's the length of each chapter like? Can you give us an example of how long the FF7 story will be? They answer that the original FF7 will be condensed into about 10 chapters. To elaborate, it will take 3 chapters to escape from Midgar. The other compilation titles will probably follow the same chapter pacing. You guys, this is classic gacha game storytelling. There's going to be a button on the screen. I'm going to put up Final Fantasy Brave Exvius War of the Visions, which is a long-ass title, on the screen right now, and kind of show you what I'm talking about. You're going to be able to click story, you're going to be able to click chapter, and you're going to be able to play through the chapters like that. So you'll probably click like chapter 1, scene 1 or something, and it's going to be Cloud coming in on the train, and you're going to play through that first part. It will end, and then you'll go to scene 2. Or to chapter 2 at some point. You'll play through it, whatever. There will be enemies you can fight to level up your characters, and you'll get to experience the story in that version of storytelling. This is actually really fun and adds natural breakpoints to the story. So like if you're playing and you're like, oh, it's getting kind of late, should I go to bed? Well, let me finish this chapter real quick. Boom, you finish the chapter. And a lot of times in gacha games, there's going to be an in-game currency. Playing through the chapters is a way to earn that in-game currency, which will let you go roll on the gacha, the gambling system, for free. Free-to-play players will probably have access to some in-game currency and be able to roll themselves. So if you're really lucky, you might be able to get some of those more premium features of the game just by playing the game and getting a little lucky. It's really fun, and I love gacha games. Like, I really like gacha games. So anyway, that's that. The fact that the Final Fantasy VII story is going to be about 10 chapters, that seems about right. Now remember that this is going to be covering other content besides just the base Final Fantasy VII game. It's also going to be covering Advent Children, Before Crisis, Crisis Core, and Dirge of Cerberus. So there's already like 5, because you include the main game in this, that's 5 different like main stories that will have 10 chapters each to play through. That's a ton of content that's already been announced, and I'm sure they will make up some of their own content. In fact, we know they will, because let's continue on with this interview. And it says, will Final Fantasy VII Ever Crisis have any original episodes? They say yes, we have some original episodes planned. First off is a story that will take place in Final Fantasy VII First Soldier, which is the other game that was announced at the same time as Ever Crisis. The story for First Soldier takes place 30 years prior, when Soldier was still in the middle of being established. As such, the younger versions of a certain hero, I wonder who that is, as well as Shinra employees and even other characters who will appear in the next installment of FF7R, will be present as well. It will give you a deeper understanding of characters who were not talked about much in the main story. Again, this is classic gacha storytelling. What these games like to do is take breaks in the story, right? Like maybe the first 5 chapters are released, and then they release something that's like a side story, where you get a little bit more background info on your characters. You will earn some prizes, some gear, some weapons, some armor. There will be stuff you can grind out to power up your characters, and it's something you can do aside from the main story. If you remember the trailer, in the trailer for this game, you see Cloud, Barret, and Aerith fighting the Scorpion. Now, if you remember the Final Fantasy VII story, Aerith is not in your party when you're fighting the Scorpion. To me, what that means, that scene is a side event. That's a side quest. It's a boss you can go fight just on your own outside of the story. And when you do those side events, you're going to be able to bring whatever party you want. Maybe your party is Zack, Cloud, and Sephiroth, right? Let's say Sephiroth is a acquirable character at some part of the game, which would make sense in some of those like earlier versions of the game, you know, back when Soldier's getting established, for example. So let's say you want to bring that party to a fight and beat your bosses like that. I have a feeling some of the hardest content in this game will be the side events, will be like this. Maybe they'll introduce some special bosses and you'll need to use your strongest characters to beat them. That's something really fun to do besides just play the game. It's more content, even though it's not, you know, based in the lore. It's still another way to use your favorite characters to clear some stuff. So that's pretty dang cool. It also opens up the game for collaborations, right? Like in Final Fantasy War of the Visions, they collaborate with other Final Fantasy titles. Like they'll bring in Final Fantasy I characters, they'll bring in Final Fantasy X characters. So maybe what they can do in Ever Crisis is the same sort of thing. They can have a Final Fantasy X event. They can have a Nier event where like 2B and 9S show up. You have to use your Final Fantasy VII crew, plus you get 2B and 9S to help you clear some like Nier content. Gacha games love to collaborate with other games, and by having side stories and access to a gacha system where you can make your own unique teams, it really opens up the option for collaborations with other games, and that's really cool, and I bet we see some of that in Final Fantasy VII Ever Crisis. Okay, that's sort of what we know right now. That's sort of the breadth of my knowledge on this game to this point. We know it's going to be free to play if you want to. The entire story going to be accessible for $0. We know there's going to be a gacha gambling system, and it's going to be weapons and armor, not characters. Now, if they add characters later, I wouldn't be shocked by that. But from what we can tell, you're going to just have access to the characters as you clear the story. That's fine. That's a great way to release characters and a way to get people excited. And then we also know that there's going to be that side content, which opens up so many fun things. Like, it's going to be really fun to go kill Ruby Weapon with whatever team I want. Like, maybe I want to bring Zack to that fight. You know, maybe I played the Final Fantasy X collaboration and I can use Zack, Tidus, and Cloud to clear Ruby Weapon. Seems pretty cool to me. Alright, that's the video. If you guys found this video helpful or liked it at all, please hit that like button. Subscribe to the channel if you want to see some more Final Fantasy VII Ever Crisis content. I'm going to be keeping a close eye on this game. As we learn more things, I will cover those things on this channel. So yeah, thank you guys for watching and have a great rest of your day. Peace.